Revealed, how I turned heartbreak into triumph and owned my dad's house in just 5 days. Ethan Thompson stood at the entrance of his late father's house, a crumbling monument to memories that felt almost too heavy to bear. The paint was peeling, the porch sagged, and yet, to him, it still looked like home. It had been years since he'd visited Maplewood, the place where he felt the weight of expectations as thick as the air. Now, it felt different. It was as if the town had heard of his father's passing and was giving him the side eye, whispering behind their hands. The underachiever. The word stung, digging deep into his heart as he stepped inside, the familiar sense of old wood and dusty nostalgia wrapping around him like an embrace. His father was a cherished war veteran, the hero of Maplewood, but it left Ethan feeling overlooked like a forgotten chapter in a beloved book. He'd spent too many years trying to escape that shadow, only to find it draping over him heavier now than ever. The house, with every bite of peeling linoleum and fading photograph, was a testament to laughter and warmth, yes, but also to the unresolved disputes that had often silenced family gatherings. The day of the funeral was a blur of dark suits and somber faces. Friends and family poured in, sharing stories about his father, while Ethan felt like a ghost in his own life. But it was at the will reading that the temperature in the room rose. Voices, once muted, erupted in a cacophony of accusations and demands. Who deserves this house? They cried, eyes flicking between Ethan and the prize that felt like a noose around his neck. He clenched his fists, heart racing. This wasn't just about a collection of bricks and beams, it symbolized everything his father had achieved. Could he seize that legacy? Could he stand tall against his siblings, who had never believed in him? The stakes were high, and he was running out of time. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days whizzed by, Ethan found himself fueled by an unexpected determination. Neighbors who once whispered began to rally around him. Some offered legal advice, others came to tend the wild garden his father had cherished. The far-off laughter resonated, threading a new fabric of connection. He even shared an inspiring moment with an old friend he had once thought long lost to self-righteous judgment. But self-doubt was a cunning adversary. Old family grievances crept in like weeds through the cracks in the pavement. Each small victory felt like a petty win against a tidal wave of expectation, and he grappled with shadows of the past, each moment pushing him toward the deadline that loomed ever closer. Ethan stood in the overgrown backyard, breathing in the fragrant air of blooming flowers, the sun casting long shadows behind him. Here, at this crossroads, he understood he would have to make a defining choice between the echoes of his father's legacy and the life he wanted to forge for himself. As he looked over at the ramshackle porch where so many of his childhood dreams were spun, he realized this was about more than a house. It was about claiming his own worth. In that moment, with the weight of the world on his shoulders, he knew his journey was just beginning, but could he truly rewrite the narrative of his life? Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on his back. He closed his eyes, memories flooding in his father's laughter, the stories spun on lazy Sunday afternoons, the smell of fresh pie cooling on the kitchen counter. Those moments felt distant now, tangled in the complexities of loss and expectations. Determined, he stepped back into the house. Each creak of the floorboard sounded like a call to action. He grabbed a bucket and began cleaning, scrubbing away years of neglect. With each stroke, he felt lighter, as if he was washing away the weight of judgment that hung in the air. He remembered the will's contents, the way his siblings had looked at him, some with envy, others with disdain. "You think you can handle this place?" Jessica had sneered, crossing her arms. "You were always the one who couldn't even keep a goldfish alive." Those words had cut deep, and yet, they ignited a fire within him. As sweat dripped down his brow, Ethan thought of the garden again. His father had poured his heart into that overgrown plot, nurturing it just as he had nurtured his family. It needed care, and so did Ethan. He picked up a pair of gardening gloves, wincing slightly at the calluses that had formed on his hands over the years. And yet, there was something liberating about the dirt beneath his nails, a connection to his father he thought he'd lost as he knelt by the vibrant flowers, digging his fingers into the soil. The rhythmic motion was soothing. The flowers soon began to bloom under his care, their colors brightening the drab surroundings. As he worked, he found himself humming the old tunes his dad loved. The songs seemed to wrap around him like a warm hug, reconnecting him to the essence of family. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans and headed inside, wiping his brow. Standing there was Mrs. Henderson, an elderly neighbor whose eyes sparkled with kindness. "I saw you've been busy," she said with a smile that softened the lines of her face. "Your father used to help me with my garden every year. He had quite the green thumb." "Yeah, I'm trying to bring it back to life," Ethan replied, his voice catching slightly. "It's what he wanted." Mrs. Henderson stepped closer, her expression turning serious. "You know, your father believed in you, Ethan. He shared stories about you, your dreams. He always knew you would find your way." The words hung in the air, settling into the cracks of his heart. No one had ever said it so directly. A mixture of gratitude and sorrow swelled within him. "Thank you," Ethan finally said, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. "I guess I have a lot to prove to myself and to him." With a nod, she placed a hand on his shoulder, giving him an encouraging squeeze. "Just remember, you don't have to do it all perfectly. It's okay to stumble. What matters is that you keep getting back up." Ethan smiled, feeling the warmth of her encouragement seep into him. It was a light in the darkness that he desperately needed. As he watched Mrs. Henderson walk away, he felt renewed. He picked up the shovel again, pushing harder into the soil. He was no longer just trying to reclaim a house, he was reclaiming himself, piece by piece. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across his father's cherished home, Ethan spotted a flicker of movement from the corner of his eye. A figure stood across the street, watching him from the shadows. Was it someone he knew? A sibling? The air thickened with tension, pulling at his heart again. Who was it that lurked just beyond his world? And what did they want? Ethan squinted as he tried to make out the figure across the street. The evening sun cast a golden hue, making it hard to see clearly. Heart pounding, he quickly dusted off his hands and wiped his sweat-slicked brow. An unsettling mix of curiosity and dread bubbled within him. "Hey," he called, trying to sound brave, his voice cracking slightly. The figure didn't move, just stood there, still and silent. Anxiety twisted in Ethan's stomach. This was not the time for a confrontation, not after everything he had begun to reclaim in his life. Taking a deep breath, he cautiously walked to the edge of the yard, the cool grass brushing against his bare feet, grounding him. As he got closer, the figure shifted, and he caught a glimpse of familiar features. It was Sam, his older brother. "Sam?" Ethan said, disbelief written across his face. What was he doing here? Their relationship had always been strained, ever since their father had passed. He hadn't expected a visit in the midst of this emotional upheaval. "Ethan," Sam replied, his voice steady yet flat, as if he had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. He stepped forward, and Ethan noticed the tension in his posture, like a tightly wound spring. "Thought I'd check on the old place." Ethan swallowed hard. "And what exactly do you want, Sam?" "Just to talk," Sam said, his tone shifting slightly, revealing an edge of vulnerability. "About everything." The weight of that word hung between them. Everything could mean so much. A flood of memories rushed back, arguing over cars, silent dinners, unspoken words. "Fine," Ethan said, forcing his voice to remain calm. "Come in." The two brothers entered the house, the air inside thick with unspoken history. Ethan gestured for Sam to sit at the kitchen table, the very same table where they had shared countless meals and disagreements. He grabbed 2 glasses and filled them with water, trying to ease the tension with small gestures. "So, you're really going to make this a thing?" Sam asked, casting a quick glance around the room. "You plan on trying to fix up this place?" Yeah, Ethan replied, unable to hold back a defensive tone. It's what Dad would have wanted. Right. Sam let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. You think you can do this alone? You're the same guy who couldn't keep a goldfish alive. The jab struck a nerve, but Ethan stood his ground. I'm not asking for your approval, Sam. I'm doing this for me. Silence fell, stretching uncomfortably between them. Ethan watched as Sam ran a hand through his hair, revealing the uncertainty behind his bravado. Look, I know things have been rough, Sam said, deflating. But I was wrong about you. I shouldn't have said those things. I guess I just don't get it. Why are you even trying? Ethan leaned back, the energy in the room shifting. Because I have to. For Dad. For myself. I need to figure out what's next. The acknowledgement hung heavy between them, but Sam's expression softened. Maybe I can help. It doesn't have to be just you. Ethan felt a flicker of doubt. Could he trust Sam? Could he really allow another person into this fragile space of renewal? Before he could answer, Sam's phone buzzed, breaking their moment. Excuse me, he said, stepping out onto the porch. Ethan watched his brother's retreating figure, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over him. Could they mend their relationship? Could they make this work together? But then he remembered the dark figure lurking outside his world earlier. In the back of his mind, worry settled. What else was waiting to be uncovered? What other secrets did this house hold? With Sam now back, a slippery path ahead loomed, tangled with potential and peril. Ethan sat at the table, fingers drumming nervously against the rough wood. He felt the old house breathe around him, a sigh of memories mixing with dust and time. Sam was just outside, his silhouette framed by the dim light on the porch, but their unspoken words lingered in the kitchen. What would it take to bridge the gap? Ethan's thoughts spiraled back through years of hurt, moments where silence stretched between them like an unpassable chasm. He glanced at the framed pictures on the wall, family snapshots capturing laughter, old holidays, and a time before sadness had wrapped itself around their lives like a suffocating vine. As Sam stepped back inside, his face carried an urgency that made Ethan's heart race. Listen, Ethan, he started, dragging a chair closer. I didn't come by just to check the house. This is about us, about what happened after Dad died. Ethan braced himself, feeling exposed. You think we can just fix it, all of this? Just like that? It won't be easy, Sam said, his gaze earnest. But I don't want to be that brother anymore, the one who pushed you away. I want to help, even if it means facing what we've been avoiding. Ethan's chest tightened. Sam's words cut through the weight of the past, but hope felt like a tenuous thread. How do we even start? Sam hesitated, his eyes darting around the kitchen as if searching for guidance. We can start with the house. Go room by room. But we need to talk about more than just fixing up the place. We need to confront what we haven't said. Ethan swallowed hard. The thought of digging into old wounds was daunting. But a spark of courage flared within him. Fine. Let us do it. Let us start with Dad's old study. As they moved toward the room, Ethan felt a rush of nostalgia. The study still smelled faintly of cedar and faded leather. Dust motes danced in the sunlight pouring through the window. Books stacked haphazardly on the desk were relics of their father's ambitions, dreams half-finished, ideas abandoned. Sam moved to the shelves, fingers tracing the spines. You always used to tell me about the stories you found in these books. Yeah, Ethan replied, his voice lower than he intended. But I never told you how much they meant to me. They were my escape. I didn't know that, Sam said gently, a realization dawning in his expression. You were always so quiet about what you liked. Silence enveloped them, a stark contrast to the noise of their childhood. A heavy emotion settled, thick and bittersweet. Ethan felt the weight of years dropping away, inch by inch. Maybe we were both just too scared, Ethan said, breaking the hush. Maybe we both thought if we ignored it, it would go away. Maybe we can't ignore it anymore, Sam said. His voice was tentative, but there was a glimmer of hope in it. We need to face it together. Ethan nodded. Feeling a little lighter, he picked up a small wooden box from the corner of the desk, dust nearly coating it. It had been their father's. When he opened it, he found a collection of letters, each one sealed with an old wax stamp. What is that? Sam leaned in, a mix of curiosity and concern on his face. I don't know, Ethan said, his heart racing. But it seems like it might be important. As they sifted through the letters, an unshakable tension gripped Ethan. What secrets did they hold? Would they uncover something that could change everything about their father, about themselves? With a deep breath, he started to unfold the first letter, unsure of what truths lay within. And as the ink pressed against his fingers, he couldn't escape the feeling that the answers they sought about their relationship, their father and the ghosts of their past were on the cusp of revelation. What could those letters reveal? What echoes of a hidden past were waiting for them in the pages? Ethan unfolded the first letter with trembling fingers. The yellowed paper crackled, releasing a faint whiff of musty nostalgia. He glanced at Sam, whose eyes were locked onto the letter, breath held as if waiting for a storm to break. The words flowed out in his father's meticulous handwriting, a rhythm that felt strangely like the old man himself. My dear sons, it began. The resistance caved slightly in Ethan's chest as he heard their father's voice echo in his mind. What does it say? Sam asked, his tone tinged with caution. Ethan hesitated, then began to read aloud. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to share this with you, but there are truths I need you to know. He felt a chill run down his spine. Sam leaned in closer, eyes wide. Go on, that my greatest failures were keeping me from really seeing you both. Ethan's heart tightened as he read on, each word pulling them deeper into a vulnerability they hadn't faced in years. I thought I was protecting you by holding on to my struggles alone, he continued. But in doing so, I built walls that kept you from me. I'm sorry for the burdens I placed on your shoulders unknowingly. When he paused, the weight of silence filled the room again. He could feel Sam's breath hitching, and he knew they were both grappling with the reality of their father's regrets. Is this really how he felt? Sam whispered, his voice cracking slightly. He always seemed so strong. Ethan swallowed hard. Strong people can hide their pain. There was a bitterness in his throat, a mix of longing and resentment. No wonder we drifted apart. He didn't let us in. Keep going, Sam urged. There's more. Ethan pressed on, the ink blurring beneath his vision as emotions surged like a storm. I hope one day you can forgive me. I wish for you both to find joy, not just in times of laughter but in moments of shared sorrow and understanding. A tear slipped down Ethan's cheek, and for the first time in years, he felt the weight of loss and love collide. He could see their father sitting at this very desk, grappling with words of love and regret. When the last lines of the letter faded into the air, Sam let out a slow breath. He wanted us to heal. His voice was distant, lost in thought. Yeah, Ethan replied, still shaken. He wanted us to understand that it was okay to be vulnerable. That we didn't have to shut each other out. Do you think? Sam trailed off, his thoughts hanging in the air. Do you think we could ever have that kind of relationship? I don't know, Ethan confessed, staring into the box and its remaining letters. But this is a start, isn't it? They exchanged a glance loaded with the weight of unshared years, and suddenly, the distance they had felt began to shrink like the shadows around them. Let us read another one, Sam said, a spark of resolve entering his voice. There could be more insights. More answers. Ethan nodded, feeling an unfamiliar warmth rise within him, a flicker of hope igniting in the dark spaces they had long allowed to fester. As he reached for another letter, the atmosphere shifted, pulsing with possibilities. Each letter held a potential revelation. What else had their father left behind for them? What other secrets lay buried in ink, waiting to set them free? With his heart racing, Ethan hesitated, a new thought cutting through the moment. What if we discover something that changes how we view everything, not just about Dad but about ourselves? Sam's eyes locked onto his, a mix of fear and anticipation swirling in his expression. Then we face it together. No more running away. Ethan took a steadying breath, feeling like they were at a precipice about to leap into something unknown. With fingers trembling with curiosity, he opened the next letter, poised for whatever truth was about to unfold. Could this lead them toward healing, or would the past continue to haunt them, even as they sought to confront it? Ethan's fingers hesitated over the edge of the next letter. The paper looked even older than the first, and a sense of apprehension filled the air. He glanced at Sam, hoping to find reassurance in his brother's eyes. Instead, he saw the same mix of hope and trepidation mirrored back at him. "Just read it," Sam urged, his voice steady despite the tension draping down over them like a heavy blanket. Ethan nodded and unfolded the letter. "Here goes," he said, already feeling a lump rising in his throat. He began reading again, the familiar, shaky hand stretching across the page. "Dear sons, if you're reading this, it means I finally found the courage to be open with you, even in death." Ethan's voice wavered, but he powered through. "I've always believed that men must be strong, silent, and steady. But the truth is, silence often drowned out my ability to love you." Ethan could feel Sam's presence beside him, practically a lifeline. The air in the room thickened as if they were both being pulled into their father's past. "Life has tested my strength in ways I never prepared you for. There were nights where the dark thoughts crept in, and I pushed them away like a weak man. You both deserved better than my facade." "Damn," Sam murmured, shaking his head as if in disbelief. Ethan continued, his own heart racing. "I was terrified to show any weakness. I thought I would lose you both if you saw me cry. But I understand now that true strength comes in the moments of vulnerability. I wish I had learned this sooner when you needed me the most." Ethan's voice cracked slightly, and he fought back tears. His father had never shown them this side, and the realization felt like a gaping wound opening wider. "I want you two to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not have all the answers. Life is confusing and messy. I wish I had told you that sooner." Sam's eyes were shining now, reflecting both grief and a deeper understanding. "He really wanted to be there for us, yeah," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "He just didn't know how." "It's heartbreaking," Sam added quietly, "to think he felt he had to carry it all alone." Ethan turned back to the letter, the ink flowing like emotions spilled out on the page. "The beauty of being a father is seeing your sons grow into the men you wanted to be yourself. You both exceeded my dreams. I hope you can forgive me. Promise me you will not let fear keep you apart. Forgive each other, and forgive me." Ethan's breath hitched, and he squeezed his eyes shut, the weight of unresolved pain cascading over him. "I wish I could hug him one more time," Sam said, his words heavy with longing. "Me too," Ethan replied, the ache of loss blending with a strange sense of connection. "But we can hug each other, and maybe we can fill the gaps he left." He glanced at Sam, who nodded, the understanding settling between them. "Do you think there's more?" Sam asked, his voice tentative. "More letters? More truth?" "There has to be," Ethan replied, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. "But what if this next one, what if it reveals something even more difficult? Something we're not ready to face?" Sam hesitated, contemplating the uncertainty that lay ahead. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. Just like we always should have." Ethan's fingers trembled as he reached for the next letter, his mind racing with possibilities. What if they discovered something that shattered their understanding of their father? Or perhaps a simple truth that could finally bridge the gap left by years of silence. As he unfolded the letter, excitement and fear danced in his chest. Each word could bring them closer to healing or lead them somewhere darker than they'd ever ventured before. What awaited them on the other side of the inked page? Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself against the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to pull him under as he focused on the letter. The page crinkled softly in his hands, revealing more ink than the previous note. It felt thicker, almost as if it were infused with the words their father had struggled to put down, waiting for this moment, this connection. "All right," Ethan said, a whisper colored with determination. He began to read, his eyes scanning the familiar loops and curves of his father's handwriting. "Dear sons, I hope this finds you in better spirits than I currently am. The truth is, I've hidden not just my fears but my entire self from you. As I sit here, the walls of my mind close in, and each regret becomes louder. I've avoided being honest, even with myself, for far too long. Ethan's heart pounded as he pushed through. Regrets? Had their father actually held on to regrets? It was a notion that made the air feel thicker around them. Sam leaned in closer, visibly invested, his breath mingling with Ethan's anticipation. You need to know about the choices I made, the secrets I kept buried deep inside. I chose silence over conversation. I let pride grow like a weed, choking out the love I wanted to show. There was a time, before the weight of my role consumed me, when I could have laughed freely with you both. I can only hope you remember those moments. A lump formed in Ethan's throat. Laughter with his father, a rare occurrence. The kind of memories that flickered like fireflies in a dark night, ephemeral yet profound. I made mistakes. Mistakes that hurt you, Ethan continued, his voice almost breaking as he felt Sam's presence beside him. Times when I should have stood up for you, or admitted I was wrong, but I turned away. I buried my affection under layers of what I thought a man should be. Ethan's hands shook slightly as he pondered his father's burdens. The ache of understanding deepened. His father had been a man molded by expectations his own, theirs, society's, and in his rigidity, he had been lost. I want you to find your voice, the letter urged, the ink seeming to swell with emotion. Don't let my failures silence you. Speak up and reach out. When you feel the shadows creeping in, just remember, vulnerability is not weakness. It's the bridge to loving one another even when it's hard. Tears pricked at the corners of Ethan's eyes. The raw honesty in those words sliced through him. It was like hearing a father's plea to learn from his missteps, to foster a connection based on openness rather than fear. Together, you can crush the darkness that haunts us, Ethan read, his voice trembling, releasing the tight hold on emotions. Together, you can find the strength in each other I failed to share. I love you both more than life itself. As Ethan's voice faded, silence enveloped the room like a comforting embrace. He looked at Sam, who seemed equally shaken, both of them realizing the weight of their father's truths. The air felt electric with potential. What do we do now? Sam asked quietly, the question threading through the tranquil silence, echoing the uncertainty of their shared journey. Ethan met Sam's gaze, clarity forming amidst the emotional upheaval. We face it together and we start rewriting our story too. He carefully folded the letter, both a treasure and a challenge. Yet, beneath the surface of that uncertainty emerged a flicker of hope. Their father's honesty had opened a door, but what lay beyond it? Could they truly heal the rift created by years of silence? Ethan's heart raced with anticipation as he reached for what he hoped would be the final letter. But what if this one deepened the revelations further, or brought new shadows into their light? Whatever awaited in those lines, one thing was clear, they would face it side by side. With trembling fingers, he began to unfold the last letter. What final truths would be revealed? Ethan unfolded the final letter with a mix of dread and resolve. He could feel Sam's anticipation beside him, a quiet electricity crackling in the air. As the paper smoothed out in his hands, he took a moment to steady his breath. This was at the last piece of their father's heart, possibly holding the key to all the questions that lingered like shadows in the corners of their lives. Dear Ethan and Sam, the letter began, and Ethan's heart raced. If you're reading this, then you've already begun to uncover the truths I've buried. There's so much more I need to say, and I pray you find strength in my words. Ethan's eyes flicked to Sam, who held his breath, mirroring his own feelings of anticipation mixed with fear. They leaned closer together, united yet trembling at the potential weight of this revelation. I want to talk about the home we shared where laughter mingled with silence, where love sometimes felt overshadowed by expectations. I built those walls not just for us, but to protect myself from the pain I felt, a pain I now realize I passed on to you both. The image of their childhood home swirled in Ethan's mind. It was the backdrop of so many memories: the family dinners, the quiet moments spent watching TV, and the holidays where the decorations seemed to amplify the joy and the cracks in their family's facade. With a deep breath, he continued reading. I know now that I constructed barriers, thinking they would keep hurt away, but all they did was keep my heart contained. I want you to live freely in that home, to fill it with laughter and lightness, to not be haunted by the shadows that trapped me." Ethan's throat tightened. Their father wasn't just addressing the house but also their potential for happiness inside it. He could feel those words stir something deep within him, a desire to redefine the space that had been filled with unspoken fears and missed connections. "There is a hidden part of the yard, a small garden I tucked away long ago," the letter continued. "I wanted to create a space for growth, reflecting the ideas of new beginnings and the life I've often neglected to acknowledge. Do you remember those times you both brought home seeds, filled with the hope of what they could one day become? I want you to plant them there, to nurture them with love and laughter." Ethan felt a tear escape and slide down his cheek, both grief-stricken and hopeful. "You both deserve to thrive," he read on, his voice quivering. "Don't follow my path of isolation and regret. Create a new story filled with everything I failed to embrace: courage, vulnerability, and love." He paused, letting the weight of those words settle in. The finality of their father's thoughts brought an overwhelming rush of emotions. Sam glanced sideways at Ethan, determination flickering in his eyes. "And remember, home is a feeling, not just a place," the letter concluded. "I love you both endlessly. Embrace your journey and hold each other close." For a moment, time stood still. Ethan folded the paper gently, reverently. The revelations wrapped around them like a warm blanket, but lingering questions still danced at the edges of their hearts. "What do you think he meant by the hidden part of the yard?" Sam asked, breaking the silence. Ethan looked at him, excitement and uncertainty swirling within. "I don't know, but I know we have to find it." As they both rose, a spark ignited in their cores. Together, they were ready to explore what their father left behind. The journey ahead felt infinitely daunting yet filled with potential. With each step toward the door, Ethan whispered a silent promise to his father and to himself that they would embrace whatever lay ahead, what awaited them in that hidden space. Would uncovering the garden unlock forgotten memories, or awaken new beginnings? The sun dipped low in the sky as Ethan and Sam stepped outside, a gentle breeze nudging them forward. The warmth on their skin felt like a comforting hug, drawing them toward the backyard they had known so well but never fully appreciated. "Do you remember playing back here?" Sam asked, his voice tinged with nostalgia. Ethan smiled, recalling the summer days spent kicking around a soccer ball, the thrill of sunlight and laughter blending into one perfect memory. "Yeah, we built that tree fort, thinking we were kings of the world," Ethan replied, his heart swelling with a mix of joy and sorrow. As they made their way to the back of the yard, Ethan's thoughts flickered back to the letter. The hidden part of the yard loomed like a riddle begging to be solved. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of garden their father had envisioned, whether it would be a place of rebirth or just a manifestation of his own dreams. "Look for anything different," Ethan suggested, glancing around the expanse of grass that had almost always felt like home. Sam nodded and stepped off the usual path they took, heading toward a wild patch of weeds that seemed to have grown too freely against the fence. "Over here." Sam's voice rang out, a tinge of excitement threading through his words. He had found something. Ethan rushed over, the thud of his heart matching his quickened steps. There, tangled in a mess of roots and grass, a small, rusty gate peeked through the overgrowth. Sam gently brushed aside the weeds, revealing more of the gate's worn surface. "Do you think it leads somewhere?" Sam asked, barely able to contain his curiosity. "Only one way to find out," Ethan said, his voice steady with purpose. He gripped the old handle, which was cold and rough against his palm. With a swift pull, the gate creaked open, revealing a narrow path that seemed to wind into the unknown. They exchanged glances filled with both trepidation and excitement. "Are we ready for this?" Sam asked, shifting from one foot to the other. Ethan took a breath, suddenly feeling the weight of their father's expectations and dreams pressing down around him. "We owe it to him and to ourselves," he replied, his voice firm. "Let us see what he left us." As they stepped through the gate, the air shifted, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. The path narrowed, flanked by untamed greenery. Blossoming wildflowers dotted the edges, their colors bright against the deep greens. "Look at these!" Sam exclaimed, kneeling to examine a cluster of vibrant yellow blooms. "They're beautiful." Ethan nodded, feeling a smile break across his face. "Like little pieces of hope," he murmured, their father's words echoing in his mind. As they ventured deeper, the sense of nostalgia intertwined with a new wave of hope washed over them. Each step felt like unearthing a part of themselves they had long ignored. The memories of their childhood slowly melded with the possibilities of the future, connecting them like roots intertwined underground. The narrow path suddenly opened up into a small clearing. In the center stood a modest yet elegant patch of meticulously tended soil, framed by vibrant flowers. Ethan's breath caught. This was the garden their father had envisioned, a mix of neglected beauty and the promise of something new. "Can you believe he did this?" Sam whispered, awe illuminating his features. Ethan stepped forward, heart racing. "I think he wanted us to find it together." But as they inspected the makeshift wooden labels dotting the garden, each marked with names of new and old plants, a sobering sense of reality washed over them. Their father had cherished this space. He hadn't abandoned it, he simply wanted them to uncover it when the time was right. "What do we do now?" Sam asked, looking up as a weight settled in the air between them. Ethan squared his shoulders. "We nurture it. We plant new seeds. We fill this space with life and laughter." The transformation before them felt monumental, the potential of the garden echoing the promise of their future. Ethan glanced at Sam, who was already digging in his bag for seeds. Just then, a gentle flutter caught his eye. A single butterfly danced through the garden, pausing as if to watch them. "Do you think it means something?" Ethan mused, enchanted. "Maybe it's a sign," Sam replied, a glimmer in his eyes. As they began to plant their seeds, each symbolizing their hopes, struggles, and dreams, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this garden was merely the beginning of something bigger. With every seed they tucked into the earth, the connection to their father deepened, intertwining their past with the radiant potential of their future. What other secrets did this garden hold? Would nurturing it also heal the wounds of their hearts? Ethan and Sam worked side by side, hands sinking into the rich earth, planting seeds that carried feelings of every memory they had of their father. Each seed felt like a promise to themselves, to each other, and to the love that had gone unexpressed for far too long. As they planted the last of the seeds, the sun began to dip low, casting a golden hue over the garden, transforming it into a sacred space filled with hope and warmth. Flowers danced lightly in the evening breeze, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their father was with them, wrapped in the fragrance and the shifting shadows around them. "Look at this place," Sam said, standing up and wiping the sweat from his brow. "It's more than just a garden. It's like a piece of him is still alive here." Tears welled in his eyes, a flash of unguarded emotion surfacing from deep within. Ethan felt the same rush of vulnerability. "Yeah, it is. I think he always wanted us to do this together. To share more than just our burdens." They stood in silence for a moment, absorbing the beauty of their surroundings and the magnitude of their journey. The garden was no longer just a neglected patch of dirt, it was a canvas where they could paint their future, a blooming relationship rooted in understanding and kindness. "Hey," Sam broke the silence, a smile slowly spreading across his face. "What if we keep this going? Like a tradition? We can come here together every spring, plant new seeds, and share our progress no matter how small." Ethan's heart swelled with affection. "I love that idea." Spurred by a warmth that ran deeper than family ties, they began to imagine flowers of every variety, stories shared, laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. "This could be our thing." Sam nodded, his expression lightening. "Our garden, the Thompson garden." They both grinned, throwing dirt clods at one another with playful abandon, laughter ringing out into the twilight. It felt freeing, lifting years of resentment and sorrow into the vast sky that now seemed full of endless possibility. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" Sam's tone turned more serious. "You ever think about what our dad would say if he could see us now?" Ethan paused, considering, then replied, "I think he'd be proud. Proud that we didn't let his struggles overshadow our lives." He felt the weight of their previous conversations settle into something comforting. And I think he'd want us to forgive him and ourselves. That's a big step, Sam said softly, a step that took them away from pain and shame. I know, Ethan breathed, a tightness forming in his throat. But it's what he wanted, isn't it? For us to break that silence. To heal. With those words, the air between them shifted. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, new stories, new memories, and perhaps even new beginnings. With every passing moment, they felt lighter, the heaviness that had once defined them gradually giving way to something far more joyful, an acceptance and celebration of the past intertwined with hope for the future. As they wrapped things up and stepped back to admire the burgeoning garden, Ethan gazed at the vibrant blooms and the new life sprouting from the earth, fueled by their father's wishes. It wasn't just a place, it was an embodiment of resilience, transformation, and brotherhood. They walked back toward the old house, and just as they reached the porch, a sudden gust of wind swirled around them, a whisper of laughter carried on its breath. Sam looked at Ethan, wide-eyed. Did you feel that? It's like he's blessing us. Ethan laughed, a pure sound cutting through the twilight's calm. Let us not waste it. Let us go build that tree fort and remind ourselves who we are. Let us not get lost in shadows anymore. The history we share doesn't have to weigh us down, it can lift us higher. They headed back into the house, hearts aligned and spirits renewed. Together, they were more than just brothers, they were partners, allies in a journey of healing and growth. They embraced vulnerability, turning it into strength, crafting a life intertwined. Within the walls that once felt like a burden, Ethan glanced back at the garden, vibrant and alive, and knew they were just at the start of a beautiful revival, a triumphant reclamation of love, laughter, and family. And as the stars began to dot the night sky, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was home. This was family. They had turned their heartbreak into triumph. Now, it was time for you to join the journey. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to the channel for more exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this community. Comment below your reactions and feelings about Ethan and Sam's transformation, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey unfold. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love and positivity.